Greetings and welcome to today's devotion here at Extraordinary Connection. My name is Devin Smith and I have the privilege and pleasure of serving as the pastor at Romeo UMC. Today I wanted to start by reading us this piece of scripture. It might be a familiar one you've heard before, but it comes to us from John's Gospel, chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. It's the wedding at Cana. On the third day there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what concern is that to you and to me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now standing there were 6 stone water jars for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to them, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. He said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the chief steward." So they took it. When the steward tasted the water that had become wine, and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the steward called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and then the inferior wine after the guests have become drunk. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this, the first of his signs in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. Now, you may have heard before that this is the first miracle we have of Jesus, the first one we read about in the scriptures. This is early in his ministry, before word had begun to spread throughout the region, before the crowds are starting to follow him, starting to hound him. This is Jesus before he became Jesus, at least became known as Jesus. And here he is simply attending a wedding. Must have been for a family friend or acquaintance of some sort or another because his mother's there as well. And it was actually one of Mary's lines that really stood out to me as I was looking at this and reading this scripture. It was her instructions to the servants in verse 5. Remember what she said to them? "Do whatever he tells you." And as we know from the scripture, the servants did. However, I think it's easy to gloss over what it was that the servants did. I mean, first they did take Mary and her command to do whatever he tells you, whatever Jesus said, and they followed it. They listened. But second, what was that command? What did Jesus instruct them to do? He instructed them to fill the 6 stone water jugs. Oh, and don't forget to mention, those water jugs each held 20 to 30 gallons of water. Now think about that for just a minute with me, if you will. I'm going to go ahead and assume that those 20 to 30 gallon stone water jugs, they're not the lightest things ever. I think of all the coaches I've seen doused with Gatorade, those plastic jugs that often are 2 players lifting them up. Those are 5 gallon jugs. These are 20 to 30 gallon stone water jugs. And then they're going to add that 20 to 30 gallons of water into them. That's not going to make them any easier to move, any lighter for those servants to move. And of course, I have to remind us that this wasn't a matter of simply dragging the hose over from the nearest spigot and filling those jugs up. This would have taken effort, would have taken intentional work. It would have been an undertaking to fill up those jars, wouldn't it? Moving them back and forth to the water source or hauling bucket after bucket to carry somewhere in the vicinity of 120 to 180 gallons of water. Yet the servants did it. They did the work that was needed. They did what Jesus said. Of course, we know the miracle that then happened. After the jugs were full, Jesus instructs them to draw out some of the water, some of what is now wine, and take it to the steward. And the steward is blown away. It is of the finest quality wine. And he even asks the bridegroom, "Why would you save this until everyone was already drunk?" Usually this is what is served first. that miracle, that finest quality wine, it didn't exist without the efforts of those servants. This story and this reality has been with me since I recently saw a tweet from Pastor Rich Vijadas. I'm going to put this up here for you. This was the tweet he had sent. Before the water turned into wine, someone had to do the ordinary, tiresome task of filling the water pots. We want the new wine to just appear, but Jesus calls us to fill the jars first. In short, God often wants us to participate in our own transformation. Wow, right? How often do we want the miracles to just happen, to appear before our eyes? How often do we want to be the one to do the ordinary, even tiresome task of filling the water pots? The ironic thing is, when we really look at those verses in John, Jesus didn't do anything. Now, before someone shoots me off that angry email for being a heretic or something, I fully understand that Jesus did something. But as we read it, the extent of what Jesus did in this scripture, in this telling in John, the extent of what Jesus did was he gave some instructions. Fill the jars. Now draw some out. We don't even see Jesus offering a prayer, a word of thanks to God. There's no waving of a hand over that water, no reaching out and touching it, anything else. Jesus performed the miracle, but he also made others an active part of seeing it through, seeing it happen. Are we today still willing to be an active part of seeing those miracles happen in our world? Are we willing to follow Mary's advice and do whatever he tells you? Or are we happier to sit back and wait for the new wine to appear, the new believers to come knocking down the church doors, or salvation to be miraculously found by those who are in search of it? Maybe that everyday, ordinary, tiresome task, maybe it's a little bit more important than we might sometimes realize. Maybe it's in doing this work of the kingdom that we might not only see, but we might be a part of the miraculous work God is still doing right here in our own churches, in our own communities, in our world. Maybe we still need to do our part to be the servants Jesus has called us to be. Well, friends, I'm taking some time next week to get away with my family, so I'll be looking forward to seeing you all when I get back here in 2 weeks. And until then, stay safe, take care, and God bless.